Welcome to Crazy Enough to Win. I'm your host, John Grubbs. Welcome to the show. We have something very special for you today, something that I think you will find both uh, interesting and challenging at the same time. We have an interview with Brandy Flanagan. She is an entrepreneur, she's an author, and she is a keynote speaker. She owns a business and serves as a city councilwoman. Wow. Brandy, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, thanks so much for having me today. I really am looking forward to this, to just have some fun talking business and all things life.
So I see there's a bull in your background. Is that a no bull statue?
Absolutely. But it's Texas, right? In Texas, you've always got to have a cow head sticking out somewhere.
Are you saying we're full of bull in Texas?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that.
So I got to know.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy made an old song mainstream again. Looking Glass has a song called Brandy. Even my teenager likes this crazy old song that is even before my time. What is the origin of your name, Brandy?
Oh, this is a funny story. So my dad, his best friend, so my mom and dad were pregnant, and my dad's best friend was pregnant with his wife. And so they both decided that they were both pregnant with girls. So they wanted to name their daughters something similar. So I got Brandy Joe and she got Nikki Joe. And so when my parents told my grandfather about it, they were like, why are you going to name your daughter after liquor? And so I think it's the perfect name for me because, it's high spirited. There you go. We'll put it that way.
That's strong liquor too. So does it indicate that you have a strong personality?
Well, my husband would probably say that. Yes.
And too much may not be a good thing.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but
All right. So I looked at your bio on LinkedIn and you mentioned a Kennedyesque family in your LinkedIn bio. Is that a period you admire? Tell me what period in history you connect with most.
Well, I think so many times when people imagine entrepreneurship, they imagine like these families and the covers of, Vogue magazine. They imagine, the entrepreneur magazine, covers and things like that display these large, beautiful families, and, it's just not true. I mean, just like most families that, there's a little bit of dysfunction in every family. And I think every entrepreneurial journey has a little bit of dysfunction in it as well.
Wow. Well, I think I hear you saying it's the social media family that people post that makes everything look amazing, and no one wants to admit there's crap in their family. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
And just like in business, right? We put this image that our business is all this and all that, but we don't like to talk about the struggles that are going on in our businesses. So you didn't answer the question. Which period do you identify with the most? Is it the present? Is it the 60s? When do you see?
No, I am an 80s child through and through. I mean, that's my era, is the 80s. It was fun. It was loud. It was crazy. Some of the greatest companies, some of our Fortune 100 companies were established during that time. It was just a great era. So now I'm definitely an 80s child for sure.
So you just went up a few notches in my book, because I believe being a teenager in the 80s as I was, it gave humanity the best music ever known to any of us. I'm a Van Halen, a Motley Crue, a Sammy Hagar, Def Leppard, ZZ Top. Those are all in my wheelhouse. Do you like that music?
100%. And a fun thing about it is my new book that's coming out, Make Business Fun Again. One of the ideas I came up with, because music is such something that energizes me, that it actually brings on a lot of creativity for me. And so in that new book, at the first of every chapter, I have a song that's kind of the soundtrack of that chapter. So just to, infuse some fun and a little bit of difference in the combining the music with the books.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. Uh, I was going to use the theme song from Van Halen. I'm a Van Hagar fan.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Van Halen with Sammy Hagar. I don't dislike, the original Van Halen, but I love Van Hagar. But the song that I love the most is Sammy Hagar's version of Right Now. Do you remember that song?
That one's not coming to the top of my head. So I have to admit, I'm a little bit of a guilty pleasure here. Mine is 80s pop. So
Oh,
like Girls Want to Have Fun, those type of songs. So don't think less of me now.
oh my gosh. No, I don't think any less of you. Well, not much less anyway, just a little bit. But I get it. The Madonna age, the original Madonna, and all those.
Absolutely. 80s pop, the best.
Mm, mm, mm. I am so, I guess, nostalgic about that era because it was when MTV really still had music videos
That's
on
right.
TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you
Yeah.
still see the video in your head all these years later when you hear the song. Isn't that crazy?
Yes. Yes.
So I want to shift gears a little bit. When did you have the mental moment that made you decide to enter politics?
That's funny. So I've always, this probably dates back to my father. He was very much one-sided, and I was definitely leaned more towards the other side. So political season was a fun time for me and him because we would really banter back and forth on it. And since he's passed away, I do have to say the political seasons have they definitely don't have the same shine to them as they used to have. But in my community, I actually had individuals that started coming to me and just asking me, would I please run for our local city council, that they really wanted to get some individuals in there that, had some big business experience and oversight experience. And after about the fifth person, I really think they kind of coordinated that, but, they won't admit to that. After about the fifth person, I just, my family's very faith-based. We prayed about it. And I just felt like that's what, that for that season, that was one of the purposes that I was to serve in.
Wow. So let's stay on that topic a little bit. I think there's something interesting here. We used to have a time in this country politically where we could disagree and still have a very constructive discourse. And it seems like the polarization of politics has eroded that ability to really disagree and support each other. How do you see that ever getting resolved?
Well, I think that's true when it's being done on social media. I'm finding though that the one-on-one conversations that you still have with individuals, that you're actually able to still have those good conversations that can kind of just it takes two people to listen. If you're going to go into the conversation and you're not going to be willing to listen to what that person is saying, it's always going to be combative. But I still have wonderful conversations, but they're always done in person. If I ever get on Facebook and make a political statement, there's going to be back and forth exactly what you're talking about. But I hope that we can kind of get back to that place to where we see that there's more that we actually agree on than that separates us, because that's exactly what I find when I sit down with individuals that are quote unquote on the other side of the political aisle, which I hate, that. Then, I want those days to come back to where we see that we're not all that different. Some of our policies are, but at the core of what we're fighting for is actually the same. We just maybe sometimes have a different way of addressing that situation.
So how do you deal with I don't know, the freaking hypocrisy of a politician that will say one thing to your face and then go on social media and be totally different? How do you deal with that when you're face to face with someone, to know that they've done that or they're likely to do that? How does that set with you?
I'm just at the local level. So in the town that I'm in, I haven't really ran into that, too much. I don't really have a guiding post to kind of draw from that. I find it I do, as far as at a national and a state level, the hypocrisy bothers me a lot. Just like any other group, politicians are a lot of times grouped all in one group. So people will say, all politicians are this or all politicians are that. And I think anytime that we do that with any group of people, we're really missing out on some individuals that are truly there to serve and truly there for the right purposes. And those are the people that we really need to start highlighting and that we really need to start supporting and backing. And quit giving the ones that are so two-faced, quit giving them any time.
I like the word two-faced. I think that fits the picture I have of a lot of politicians in my mind. They can, be legitimate and have a very, well, constructive discourse, and then they go on social media or the press and say something completely different.
Yeah.
Let's pivot a little bit. In 2016, I was diagnosed with the big C word, cancer, melanoma. And Brandy, surviving cancer for me was, well, it turned out to be such a blessing. It completely changed my approach to life. You mentioned a major health issue in your bio. What's that about?
So one of the first businesses that my husband and I opened, and we still have it today, was a health and fitness business. And, so I was a personal trainer for over 10 years. And, in our East Texas area, was actually known as one of the top female trainers. And I literally woke up one day and could no longer walk. My back had completely, the bottom part of my spine somehow had shifted completely forward. They had not ever seen that type of injury in someone unless they had had a big fall or they had, had a car wreck or something like that. And I spent about 6 months completely couch bound, because I couldn't even be in my bed because it was just too flat and too hard. And from that point, just little by little started getting, back to where I could. I started working with a fantastic chiropractor along with physical therapy. It was important to me to try to not have surgery just due to how many injuries that we had seen in our business. And then my husband is also an occupational therapist. And so we had kind of seen where if somebody started having back surgery, they kind of had to keep having back surgery. And so I wanted to do all that I could to do it in all other ways. And so that very much changed the trajectory of my life. Sometimes I think we go through those things because we wouldn't necessarily step into the next thing that God has for us if we didn't go through something to make us take that next step. Because I was very, very happy with what I was doing. I would always, business owners would call me, all through those years asking for help. I would give them give my insight to them on what I thought they could do. But that thing, it transitioned me into business consulting. And it's a career that I absolutely love. And so I would have never made that transition. I know myself. I loved what I did too much to ever make that transition myself. And so that's the issue that I'm describing.
So 6 months is a long time. Did you go through any depression or any mental issues with that recovery?
Absolutely. I mean, my whole identity at that time was in what I did. And so when it took away that I could no longer work out, I couldn't sit here and train people the way I did. I did triathlons and things like that. Loved it. And so my body would not allow me to do those things anymore. And for a long period of time. So it really, I tell my husband, because I put on so much weight through that time. And I was like, why did you keep bringing me the ice cream when I would ask for it? And he was like, are you kidding me? I wasn't going to tell you no.
Wow.
But absolutely. I went through a huge identity, type crisis on trying to figure out, that really solidified in me that it's so important that we not base our identities on what we do, but who we are. Because who we are can always shift and transition. And that's what life is about. That's what business is about, is learning to shift. when those times come. And that was a huge life shift for me, internally and externally.
I'm a champion of getting the idea of mental health out of the closet and into the living room, so to speak, so that people are
Absolutely.
not afraid to talk about mental health. Do you think you were clinically depressed during that time?
No, I don't think I was clinically depressed. I do agree with you. We have individuals in our family that, do have those issues, and they're wonderful people, with some of the most creative people in our family, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I myself, though, it didn't get to that level. But, definitely, I mean, I was definitely, depressed there for a while, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm just proud of you for putting it out there and talking about it, because a lot of people don't. And I'm a huge fan of Brene Brown's book Dare to Lead, and being
Yes.
vulnerable and being transparent. So I am I guess a spokesperson for transparency as a leader, that we are not going to achieve the levels that we can as a leader if we act like we're perfect and we've got it all together and we've got it all figured out and we don't have any problems in our life. I don't think real people, can connect with someone that's like that. But when we can talk about, our own insecurities, our own inferiorities, I think we become attractive as leaders. So in that
Yeah.
note, I define success as a moment in time that we realize we get to earn a living doing something we enjoy. How do you define success?
Success in my book will always be impact. What kind of impact are you having on this world? What kind of impact are you having on those that you're serving? That's what I define success as, is what kind of impact am I having, and making sure that that is an authentic impact, exactly what you were just talking about. I think that's why um, I don't want to say, excelled because of, but I think that's how I've continued to move forward, in a career that very much started out as like an Aaron Brockovich type of, story. I don't have the typical business degrees and things like that, but what I've always been is very authentic with people. And I've always cared about people. If I'm going to sit down with you, I'm going to stop doing everything I do, and I'm going to listen to what's going on with you, and I'm going to do whatever I've got to do to help you move forward in your business, your life, whatever that is. So, impact is what I gauge my success on.
You keep saying the word impact, and I keep thinking, man, a tagline for her would bring the boom, something, that impact, something that
Oh,
sound. Yeah. So you help small businesses. This morning, I saw the funniest thing. And we live out in the country on a ranch, so nobody's around to hear me, but I was just laughing as loud as I could laugh. My wife was, what in the world are you doing? But I was listening. Don't judge me, but in my bathroom, I have a TV, and I'm listening to the network news. And
mhm.
all of a sudden, the network news cuts in and they play the dramatic music. And we've got this major news that's about to come out. And the anchor gets on and she's solemn and she says, we are getting the jobs report for May, and no, 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 no. And, it's almost like there's ominous music in the background going on. And she cuts to her other anchor and says, do we have the numbers? And the guy goes, the numbers are up. We gained 2.5 million jobs in May. And you could tell the face, it was just so funny to watch. Um,
Right.
how do you see the economic recovery going forward?
Well, I mean, I think that it's going to recover. I mean, I think history teaches us that we always bounce back and recover. And so what I'm seeing in the business world, though, is a shift. And shifting can sometimes be, I use the word shift because change freaks people out. So, we're seeing a shift in businesses. And so we've got, my main thing right now is really trying to teach business owners how to shift their businesses to what the business model is going to have to look like for them to continue to move forward and be successful in their businesses from this point on.
So it's about a shifting to the new reality. Do you think that we're going to see a V-shaped economy, or do you think it's going to be a W, meaning that it's going to bounce around at the bottom a little bit, or do you think it's going to be a U?
That's above my pay grade. I really don't know on that. I'm just, I know the heart of small business owners. They are too, uh, they're gritty. Business owners are gritty. They're going to dig in, and they're going to find a way out. And so, my job is to help them find that way out and to help them get back up on top. As far as what, the numbers and all that stuff that they want to do, to me, what matters to me is the people and the businesses to make sure that they're able to make the shifts that they need to right now.
So it's all about the shifting gears, shifting perspective, shifting ideology, shifting focus. So I'm looking at a chart right here on my computer. West Texas Intermediate crude oil is up another 4.5% to $39.08. We are in the heart of the energy sector here in East Texas, oil and gas. Does that make you optimistic, or what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think, again, we have to turn to history, and history tells us that the oil boom always comes back with a boom. And so, it's always learning to just hold on and keep the faith until we get back up on the upswing. And, so that's the thing, is to dig in to, during the shutdown, I really, really emphasize to businesses that this is a time to all of those things, because as entrepreneurs, I always say we're creative souls. We just, instead of painting or anything like that, we create solutions to the world's problems. And so, we get creative ideas all the time, but don't necessarily have the time to implement those ideas. And so the shutdown to me was the perfect time. Hey, all of those ideas that you've been having that you didn't have time to get up and going, now's the time to do that. So when things open back up, you relaunch with a bigger and better vision than ever before. And so it was exciting to see businesses do that. And I think in these downtimes, that's the perspective that we've got to start having, is that there's always going to be this up and down time. We've got to make sure that when we're on the up times that we are hitting at all cylinders. But when we hit those down times, those are the times, to me, that are the builders, where those innovative ideas that we've had and not had the time when we were up on the hilltop, that, in those low moments, we're able to start implementing.
Yeah. I love the concept of time. The business owners and CEOs I coach, every time they throw time at me, I ring the little cowbell. That's an excuse. We're all given the same amount of time. It's how we choose to use that time. But I do think this pandemic, this economic shutdown, was a unique perspective for most businesses, because we really took an amazing economy and just stopped it. A friend of mine used the analogy of a flywheel. We got this flywheel that was humming, and we just put the brakes on. And we haven't seen any of that in our lifetime before. This is the first time I think we've ever seen an economic shutdown like that. So this idea that recovery is going to be slow, like some people predict, I think it's very hard. I use the analogy, if you think of our economy like a river, and it was a roaring river prior to the pandemic, and all of a sudden we put up a dam and we stopped it. And what I think we're going to see as the dam starts to lose its integrity, as the water starts to seep through, it's going to be harder and harder to hold back the water. I made a joke on social media. I got my pandemic haircut a couple of weeks ago, and my hair had gotten so long, and it was terrible. I wore a cap on most of my interviews. But I asked the lady, I was fortunate to have the lady cutting my hair was the manager of the store. And I asked her, I said, how's business? She goes, well, we opened up on Friday, and Saturday we did 200 cuts. No, Friday we did 200 cuts. Saturday we did 200 cuts. We're estimating that we did 150 cuts on Sunday, and we're predicting another 200 today. And I said, wow. that sounds like a lot. I said, what was a normal day like before the shutdown? And she said, if we did 100 cuts during the week, that was a really good day. And if we did 150 cuts on a Saturday, that was a really good day. So I
Right.
think there's some credibility to this idea that there's a lot of pent-up demand. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And we're seeing that in our own business, to be honest. So, again, one of our businesses is a health and fitness facility. And I mean, it's like New Year's on steroids right now. I mean, it is bounced back. Thank God, tremendously. And, we've not had now our facility has a pool and has all kind of outdoor activities and things like that as well. And so summer is usually a busy time for us, but I mean, it's probably, I would say that our memberships and revenues are probably almost double than what they were last summer.
Wow. Wow. How cool is that? So
Yeah,
we're gonna pivot again.
sure.
You are about to debut a new book called Make Business Fun Again. Why should a reader consider that book?
Oh, because, here's where this book kind of, was birthed in. It was during the time that we were talking about earlier when my back went out and everything kind of had a transition. And, even in entrepreneurship, as a female, I was trying to juggle business, family, all of these things, my own health, and business was no longer fun to me. This dream that I had become a nightmare really quick. And, it was learning how to get back up out of that to actually enjoy business again, because business has always been a love of mine. And again, that started with my father. He taught me everything I knew about negotiation skills. He taught me everything, to do about money, everything. And it was just an innate capability of mine. And so to kind of go through that time to where I just wanted nothing to do with it anymore was hard. And so, I just started making shifts. I started making changes to perspectives of things. And this book, that's kind of where it birthed out of, because I made the statement one day. I was like, man, business is fun again. Like, I enjoy it again. And so it's just really teaching people that that dream that you were born with is there for a purpose and for a reason. And, keep things in a way to where you're still able to remember the joy. Kind of that first, we talk about that in the Bible, return to your first love, or, first joy, things like that. And it's kind of the same concept, remembering why you went into business in the first place. But the book is so, it's got lifestyle hacks for success, that I kind of put in there. It's got, like what we talked about before, the fun song choices. I have a chapter in there about how to create company culture based on Christmas. I mean, it's just taking everyday, things that we do that we see as fun, and learning to incorporate that in your business to create a business that not only you are having fun in, but your employees are having fun and your customers are having fun.
You mentioned gifts or talents or first loves. I truly believe that every human was given some special something. Do you agree with that?
Yes, 100%.
So
Yeah.
I've published several books, and I'm a recovering perfectionist. It's hard for me to get to DONE, done. How do you let the book go? How do you finish it?
Hey, so John, repeat that one more time because your mic went off during that question.
I published several books. The hardest thing for me as a recovering perfectionist is to let the book go, to say it's done. How do you get to done? How do you let the book go?
My editor would be laughing right now that you asked that question, because basically it had to get to the point where my editor told me I was done and to stop, because I think, especially with this being my first one, I've written blogs, I've written, things for magazines and stuff like that. But this is my first book. So, I wanted it to be, I wanted it to incorporate everything that I am, type of thing. My philosophies, things like that. And so it was very hard for me to, be done with it. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying. And thank God I was smart enough to hire an editor so that she could tell me when I was done.
Yeah. I hope you don't expect it to be perfect, because you'll always find errors in it as you read it.
Yeah.
So your book mentions light bulb moments. I never
Mm-hmm.
thought I would write one book, much less 7. Take listeners on the journey that made you decide to write a book in the first place.
Wow. This has been like a 3-year journey, actually. I don't know. I've always had a passion for writing. I enjoy it. I think one thing is that every time I would be asked to speak, of course, the question always that follows is, do you have a book that you could sell at it? So that was one thing that kind of pushed me into, hey, you really need to get something out that you can, do. And, I think in all of us, we kind of want to have, what is it, like 90% of the population wants to write a book, and then only like 20% do, or something like that. It's some kind of, statistic like that. And so,
Brandy,
and
hold
then
on.
I think,
Hey,
yeah.
I don't want to lose this thought. I've actually been told that most people, after they graduate high school, never read a book again. So how do they want to write a book if most people never read a book?
Oh, that's easy to answer, because we're so much better at talking than listening.
That is so wise. That is so wise. Yeah. So we want to tell our story, but we don't care about reading other people's story.
That's right. And I tell you, I'm an avid reader. There's probably not too many business books. I'm not going to say that. There's so many business books. There's probably a ton that I have not read. But one thing that was so important to me with this was the business books. I wanted it to be short read chapters. I wanted there to be where there, in each chapter, that there were journal pages that the reader could actually create active steps, to do these things. I wanted it to be very interactive, because that's just who I am personally. And so that was really important to me, for it not to just be something that someone very passively read, but that they had to be very engaged in it. So I wanted it to be fun. It's a very different business book. And to just really create that interaction with the reader, to make them take those action steps.
Wow. I love that. So you and your husband own a gym, and probably like my small speaking business, it had to suck for a while. How did you guys survive being shut down? Gyms weren't allowed to open. So how did you guys survive that?
Our members. I'll be 100% honest with you. This is why it's so important when you have a company, that you create impact in that company, because our members chose to continue to pay their memberships. We gave them the option. We're not going to demand you to pay. We completely understand that you're going through this as well. And so, we want to make sure and give you that option. And email after email after email came back in and said, no, you guys are like family to us. We want to support you. We want this business to be here after all of this. And our members kept our business afloat. And that is why it's so important. I talk to my customers about this, or my clients about this all the time. You have to outlove your customers from any other competition that you have. You have to take such good care of them that they're going to do things like that in the moments that you need support back as a business.
Wow. So if there's other gym owners listening, are you saying that when things got tough, you immediately reached out to your customers instead of just hoping they would stay?
Absolutely. Yeah. Communication. Absolutely.
I never heard from my gym. I kept paying my gym. I still haven't gone back, by the way, but I kept paying. But I never heard from them. They never checked on me or anything. So, I think there's a different approach that you guys might have taken as a business that a lot of other business owners may not have. And it sounds like
we continued to, make sure that we were adding value to our clients. My husband taught 3 online classes a day to ensure that they were still getting access to fitness, and he would do Q&A sessions where they could ask any questions on nutrition, anything like that. So I think too, it's always making sure that you're continuing to add value to your customers through those times.
Wow. So if there's other gym owners around the world listening to this, what percentage of your customers do you think you actually lost during that period?
Oh my goodness. I wouldn't even know what to, I mean, I think we literally only got 20 emails back that said, hey, please just hold our account through this. We're also being affected. That's another statistic that I found really interesting, is that through all of this, I think it came out in New York Times. It was talking about only 4 out of 6 families were actually affected financially through this, because companies were continuing to pay their employees, and because of the help through the PPP and the EIDL loan through the SBAs, and then through the stimulus checks that they sent out. And so I think that's why we're also going to see such a huge resurgence with everything opening up, is because, we were blessed that, there were only 2 out of 6 families that really took a financial hit, from this.
Yeah, that sounds really, really logical to me. So difficult times reveal so much about us. How do you think listeners around the world can make the most of this pandemic?
So are we talking about business owners?
Either or.
My hope is that through this pandemic, that everybody kind of got back to what matters. And even I think in the business world, a lot of times as business owners, we'll keep ourselves so busy that we almost forget about our families. We almost forget about our own health and things like that. And so, I really hope that it's kind of brought people back to what really matters. I'm hoping that connection time that most families got again, that it kind of reestablished the family unit. I'm hoping that the creative ideas that came out of this pandemic from entrepreneurs, from small business owners, and everyone, that's going to carry us even further than ever before in the business world. And so, I'm a big believer. I am innately the glass is half full type of person. So I always believe that things are going to bounce back, and they're going to bounce back better than before. And that's the hope I have to hold on to through all of this as well.
Wow. So I gotta do a little bit of a COVID-19 survey with you. People tended to become very polarized in this during the response to this pandemic. Some people were legitimately very, very afraid and locked down, and stayed home, and just completely took a very different approach to risk. Other people were cautious but business as usual. Kind of, where are you on the spectrum?
This is a personal one, John. Get me in a little bit of trouble, but no. So personally, I think that we definitely fell more into not really understanding the excessiveness that occurred as far as shutting everything down. It's not how our country has ever responded to a virus. And so it made me question 1 or 2 things. Was there something in the virus that they're not wanting us to know that, is why, there was such a rush to shut everything down the way that they did? Were there agendas on, going on that, I don't know. There's a million conspiracy theories out there, and they're a lot of fun to listen to. But, I still don't really understand the response, that occurred with it. I do at the onset, because I 100% believe that at the onset of this, that they were trying to create a gap to allow our medical systems to make sure that they were in place in case we did have the breakout that some of the other countries were seeing. But once that had been established, I didn't understand why we were continuing to go on with that. And so with our business, we are still letting people be people. And taking cautious steps as far as cleaning and doing all of those things. We are not requiring masks. We are not, some of the things that came out were actually dangerous, like that they were to wear plastic gloves while working out. And, that's actually dangerous. A weight could slip And so, we wanted to stay with the guidelines as much as possible for our members to know that, of course, their health is important to us because that's what we do. But at the same time, we never want to create an atmosphere of fear in our home or in our businesses as well. And so I would say that we were, if I'm scared was at 0 and I'm not worried about it at all was at 10, I would say we were probably around a 7 or an 8.
Oh, cool. So you guys going to restaurants now? You going out? You living normal life?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's funny. My two boys, one's 17, one's 24. And the first part of this, that they took it serious. They listened to the adults in the room and they were careful. And, but about 2 weeks ago, it all shifted. They're no longer social distancing. We had a bunch of teenage boys over at our house last night. So I warned people. I said, if you want me to come speak to your group, I will pre-warn you that the Grubbs family is no longer social distancing. So
Right.
would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people, in hindsight is always, well, did we fare so well as a country because we took these measures, or was it not as bad of a, infection rate as they thought it was going to be? Hindsight's always 2020 trying to figure that out. But, at the moment that we saw that it wasn't going to have this catastrophic effect, to keep economy shut down and cause a catastrophic effect to the economy, to me personally was not the right choice to do. And the truth is, John, is that, we're all doing okay right now, but we're going to have generations that are going to have to pay for what just occurred. And they're going to have to pay back this money that, that we're all getting to be able to survive this time.
I agree. So I am also an eternal optimist. And I shared a quote yesterday about 2020 from Doc Rivers. And it was this: 2020 isn't over. It's halftime. We still have another half. We can still win it. What do you tell a business owner who is ready to give up?
It's not time. I mean, it's just not time to give up. There was too much help for businesses to be able to stay afloat. And this is the time to shift and reimagine and go at it even harder. Unfortunately, there are going to be businesses that are going to close due to this. I mean, we've already seen some of them. It's going to happen. But I'm not a person that gives up. Like, somebody would have to come rip it out of my hand to ever get me exactly why I had to be landed on my butt from the back injury to get me to go to something else. But no, I mean, we're seeing banks lending again. We're seeing, I really thought that during the daytime, I do business consulting with the Small Business Development Center. And I really thought that after all of this, that we would just quit seeing any business startups or anything. And it has amazed me at how many people are still going after that American dream of owning a business. And we're daily having call-ins for those new businesses to open up and to start up.
Wow. I interviewed a guy yesterday, Chris Hardwick, the most interesting man in the world from Vancouver, Canada. And we were talking about the pandemic and how they responded in Vancouver in Canada. And he said one of his sons actually started 2 businesses during this pandemic. So I think there's some magic to that entrepreneurial seizure that people have that makes them want to start their own business, or at least have the feeling of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So we have listeners on 6 continents. How do they find Brandy Flanagan?
Well, they can follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter at Brandy J. Flanagan. My website right now is linked with my book, makebusinessfunagain.com. And those, you can reach out to me at any time through any of those.
So say the website again.
makebusinessfunagain.com.
makebusinessfunagain.com. Did you have to pay for that one?
I did.
Okay. I had to buy my own name for like $700. Can you believe that? John?
Oh, no, I didn't have to pay that for it.
Yeah, somebody had johngrubbs.com. I had to buy it for $700. I'm like, what the heck? Why do you want my name? So So you didn't have to spend that much money, but you had to spend a little bit.
No, I think I might have spent like $20.
Yeah. But you know what's sad now? JohnGrubs.com is worth like $25. So I don't know what I've done with it.
That's good.
I'm just kidding. So one last thing. We are crazy on this podcast. We say crazy people make things happen. Crazy people achieve things that everyone else think is impossible. Why did you say yes to a podcast called Crazy Enough to Win?
Because I'm crazy enough to win. The thing is that, again, I started out as a 20-year-old divorced mother that was with a child. And I dropped out of college and I started in the business world. And every job, I would always be the youngest when I would get promoted, or I'd be the only female to get promoted. And it was because of my tenacity and because of my belief in myself that I could do whatever I set my mind to. My mother instilled that into me, thank God. But so I just had that grit about me. And I think crazy people have a lot of tenacity and grit, and they will take chances that other people want. And so, I did in my 40s get my, at 40, I got my college degree finally to make my dad happy. But all of my progressing up in my businesses and everything else were because of crazy ideas that I had that were out of the box, that other people weren't doing, and just constantly looking for that, okay, well, if this is the medium, that's the it thing now, where is a spot that's not being filled, and I'm going to go do that. And so that's crazy people. We have crazy ideas that think outside of the box, and they create new, they create new things for us to do and have fun with.
So I grew up in Texas, and I want your opinion on this, but
Okay.
I kind of sense that Texas crazy girls are a little bit different. Would you agree?
Maybe. You know what they say, everything is bigger and better in Texas. And that means that the women are bigger and better in Texas than anywhere else.
Crazier in Texas? Is that what you're saying?
So we might be just a little bit crazier.
Okay, give them your website one more time. How do we find you?
Yes, makebusinessfunagain.com.
And when will the book debut? I want you on the record here.
August 2020. It's out of my hands now.
Good for you. Yeah. So I've decided to postpone my debut of this year's book till things settle down a little bit. So I'm proud of you for getting that done.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It was a blast. I do think you've got enough craziness in you to be just an interesting part of this podcast. And listeners, this podcast is for crazy people. We believe that going big in life is a necessity, that the enemy of this show is mediocrity, commonness, average, that when we seek things that are bigger, things that scare the heck out of us, those are the crazy things that make life interesting. And by the way, they make us more successful. So Brandy, thank you for being on the show. Listeners, thank you for listening to Crazy Enough to Win. We will talk to you next time.